answering your tough financial questions for the past 26 years. It's Allworth's Money Matters with co-hosts Scott Hanson and Pat McClain. Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hanson and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hanson.
I'm Pat McClain.
So glad you are joining us today as we talk about financial matters. Both myself and my co-host here, we're both financial advisors, certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, and we help people like yourself throughout the week and broadcast this radio program on the weekends. And, of course, many of you listen to podcasts. And we have a special program.
Do we?
This particular week. Because
let me in on it.
We've got a couple things happening right now. One, we are celebrating 25 years of doing this radio program.
Wow.
At the same time, it's just interesting how these came together at the same time. We're also celebrating a milestone of having 1 million downloads of our Money Matters podcast. Now, I don't know if I think we already just hit. It didn't exactly happen the exact same, but we're celebrating it at this particular show.
Yes. It's like having your birthday sometime during the month, but choosing this day to celebrate it. Is that it?
My daughter's on Christmas Eve.
So you celebrated the whole month of
She just
December.
gets one gift.
Is that right?
Of course. And my son is New Year's Day.
It's
He gets kind of ripped
festive.
off. Anyway.
So it's 25 years on the air, Scott Hanson and myself, Pat McClain.
So we'll be talking a bit about, throughout the show, we'll kind of sprinkle some of the stuff. And not to bore you, we'll talk about some of the memorable calls we've had. This is one of the strangest things over the years. It was a couple of, they were looking towards retirement, and I was talking to them, and they've been together 27 years, and they weren't married.
And so this was not on the radio show, or it was?
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
They weren't married.
They weren't married.
And I said something to the effect of, I was just kind of joking, like, when are you going to make her an honest woman? I was kidding, right? Because they've been living together for 20 years. When are you going to make her an honest woman? And I was just kind of joking. And then they'd call back several months later and said, we took your advice and got married. And I said,
wow.
I'm like, no, I was joking. I don't know if you should be married or not. Maybe you shouldn't be married. But
I hope they're still married.
That was one of the stranger ones.
I hope they're... I do have a radio story. I was driving in Northern California. I was driving home from the airport. It was late at night, and I was speeding. I was going above the speed limit, and I was pulled over by a highway patrolman. And so he approached my car, and I rolled down all my windows and turned the lights on so that he could see into the automobile. I have friends that are highway patrolmen, and I can't imagine a scarier thing than walking into a car at night. It was probably 12:30 at night.
I had that question to a friend of mine who's a highway patrolman, recently retired highway patrolman. I said, isn't that scary? He's like, He said, you get used to that. I mean, the first year or two, and after that, it's like, you don't even think about it.
Well, I rolled my windows down, turned the lights on. So the gentleman asked me if I was the highway patrolman.
You threw out your stash like you see on Cops. Or Live PD. My wife likes watching Live PD. Anyway, continue.
So
hopefully it's not a situation like that.
No. So anyway, so the gentleman looks at my license, driver's license, and he says, what industry are you in? I said, I'm in finance. He said, oh, your radio show. He said, I love it. He didn't even go back to his car to run the thing. He said, what do you think about the markets? Now it's 12:30 at night. I've been speeding for a reason. I'm tired. I'm trying to get home.
A reason? It's all justified in your mind. Nothing wrong with my speed.
I'm trying to get home. So he says, well, what do you think about the market? I listened to your radio show. What do you think about the markets? And finally, after about 5 minutes, I said to him, officer, I was speeding for a reason. I'm kind of in a hurry. I want to get home.
Can I get an escort? No.
So anyway, we corresponded by email a few times after that.
So you didn't get a ticket?
I did not get a ticket.
You used your privilege.
Oh, as a minor celebrity.
Yeah. Celebrity.
It's a sub-minor celebrity.
Yeah. Well, we'll be talking some about our show, how we got started, where we see it going from here, and that sort of thing. And, of course, we'll be taking your calls. If you'd like to join us, 833-99-WORTH is the number. That's 833-99-WORTH. Fortunately, this last week, actually, we had volatility. Volatility, if it's only 500 points, you don't really think about it anymore. And the fact is the markets are much higher than they were at the lows in March.
Significantly.
And we're seeing these horrendous numbers of unemployment, decline in consumer spending, decline in retail sales.
Shrinking significantly.
But it's not a surprise.
No.
I mean, the headline numbers and some of the way they're written and the way the reporters spewed out like it's this shock. But of course this is going to happen. You can't shut down everything.
Yes.
And expect.
Savings rates are at all-time highs for those people that have money. It is. And it is affecting the higher your college or post-college education, the less you're affected by this.
You want to talk about, the inequality gaps have just widened dramatically.
In a relatively short period of time.
It's really...
They were wide before, but it is widened even further.
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs can't work from home.
Yes.
Anyway, that's...
It's sad. It's sad.
It is sad.
It really is.
No, it's. I think a lot of people are feel a bit of mourning.
Yeah,
and
the problem is, we don't know when it's over, and by saying when it's over,
we don't know what that means.
We don't even know what that means because each state and or county is dealing with it a little bit differently. Just talking to our office in Texas, so we're in Sacramento, but we have offices in Texas and Atlanta, Georgia, and they're like, oh yeah. And the guy's like,
Atlanta barely ever shut down.
He went.
They had lunch. They were talking about. I was talking in the afternoon. He was talking about he had lunch with a colleague or something.
Yeah.
Like you went out to lunch with a friend.
It's a strange.
Like you get arrested in California. You can't do that.
It's a strange thing. So, to what end we don't know.
We all have those stories. We're not going to go into stories.
At the end, we will. We'll know. At the end, we'll know.
Whatever the end is.
Yes.
This will pass at some point in time.
This too shall pass.
Whether it's through. Well, we all read the stuff. Anyway, let's keep it on finance today because it sounds more fun. 833-99-WORTH is the number. Let's go to Colorado, which I also have an office in Colorado. We're talking with Mark. Mark, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Good. Hey, I got a question that has nothing to do with coronavirus.
Good. It's hard. It's hard to go more than 5 minutes in a conversation with it not coming up some way.
I know. Well, my dad recently passed away about a month ago.
Sorry about that.
And but he, unbeknownst to my mom, he left all of me and my siblings some gold. And I'm not exactly sure what to do with it.
How did he? Was it physical gold?
Yes.
Like in bars or coins?
Coins.
And how much?
Let's see. Each of us got 25.
Coins?
1 ounce.
Okay, 25 ounces each. And you received this through when he passed away?
Yes. We became aware of it when he passed away, yes.
But he didn't gift it to you before he died. He gifted it to you in his will or his trust?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the reason I ask is it has to do with the difference in tax treatment, because if you inherit an asset like gold, your cost basis for what we assume you paid for it for tax purposes is stepped up to the fair market value on the date of his death. If, on the other hand, if on his deathbed, let's as an example, he decides to hand you these coins as a gift, now it's not an inheritance, it's a gift, and your cost basis would have carried forward to whatever he had paid for the gold.
Which means that there'd be some tax liability due when you sold the coin. When you said unbeknownst to your mother, does your mother have enough money to live comfortably?
Yes.
More than comfortably. You're not worried about it at all. Okay, what's your question for us?
Well, basically, I didn't know what the tax ramifications were.
Zero.
Because,
well, relatively zero.
You could actually take a loss on it. It depends on the date you sell it.
Well, I don't even know what you paid for it.
It doesn't matter.
No. So,
It doesn't matter. It matters what the value of the gold was on the date you took possession, the day he died.
The day he died.
The day he died.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you could use an alternative date, 6 months later, but only if his estate's very complicated.
So the date he died is what the value is. So let's assume there's little to no tax ramifications on it. What's your question for us?
Would now be a good time to sell it and put
let
it
me
into something else?
Would you buy it today?
If you had
Would I buy it
$40,000
today?
Yeah, if you had $40,000 thereabouts, would you take that $40,000 and go out and buy gold with it?
No.
What would you buy?
I would probably invest it in something else, like a second home or something.
All right, there's your answer.
Yeah.
So
That's
Then
your
sell
answer. That's your answer.
There's no reason for you to keep it.
okay.
Unless, because there's not a tax. The nice thing when there's no tax consideration at this point. So any investment you have that has no tax consideration, it could be something like this. Maybe it's something in a retirement account where there's no tax consideration. We don't have to worry about any capital gain taxes. When there's zero tax consideration, any investment you own, you need to be asking yourself, would I buy this today?
And if the answer is yes, then you keep it. If the answer is no, then you sell it. If the answer is some of it, then you sell part of the position.
And oftentimes we see people hold assets like in this situation because they've inherited it and they think, well, if it's good enough for dad or dad had this, so in order to honor him, I should, which is, I always find those a little odd, but that's, some people will keep it. Or sometimes people will hold investments too long because they bought it for one price, it fell in price. It's a terrible investment, but they don't want to acknowledge a loss, so they're going to keep it until it comes back in value, which is another foolish thing to do. But.
So if you wouldn't buy the gold you inherited today, then sell it and pretend you had $40,000 in cash and go that direction.
And I just call up a couple coin dealers around town and get them on the phone and tell them what you've got and see what they'll do for you.
All righty.
Okay. Sounds good.
I appreciate the call.
Glad you called, Mark.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. And we often see people will hold. It was a few months ago, Pat. We had a call on this program. We're celebrating our 25th show here at Allworth's Money Matters. We had a call a few months back, and it was before all the downturn, and he had a bunch of Chevron stock that he inherited. You know, his dad had gifted him over the years. Remember this question?
Yes,
Maybe it was 4 or 5 months ago.
Yes.
And I remember saying I would sell that Monday morning. Right? I wouldn't wait any time because he was thinking about diversifying. It became a large piece.
It was a large portion of his portfolio.
We talked about, and he had inherited it.
Well, let's hope he took the advice.
Well, I thought about that as we've seen when oil went negative. I thought about that particular call, and it's like you never know what comes tomorrow, and why diversifying is always an important thing to do. So
yeah, and remember that the position that you hold doesn't know you own it. So the gold doesn't know you own it. You shouldn't have an emotional attachment to an investment. You should try to detach yourself emotionally as much as you possibly can from an investment.
Yeah. And is gold an investment or it's just a store of wealth?
We could get into the semantics if I thought.
But it doesn't produce anything.
That's correct.
It doesn't collect
It
rents.
doesn't have a factor of production
No.
involved in it. No, correct.
Doesn't pay any dividends. Doesn't pay interest.
But depends on how you're buying it. If you think that it's going to go up in value, it's an investment. If you're using
speculative
it as a
investment.
Yes. I'm not saying I would buy it. I know.
Well, if you're going to have gold, you should have guns too.
Yeah.
I mean, if things got that bad.
Yeah, the gold's not going to matter unless you have something to protect
it. Be a young militia working for you.
Okay, well, I think we've gone too far.
Just thinking.
I think we've gone too far.
I don't know. I've been reading some of the news. You get all these strange stories of what's going on in the world.
And you should move out of any sort of urban environment.
Have a well with solar panels.
Yes. Or we could just take the next call.
Okay,
Scott.
let's take the next call. 833-99-WORTH is the number to be part of Allworth's Money Matters with Scott Hanson and Pat McLean. We're talking with Nathan in Northern California. Nathan, you're with Allworth.
Hi, Scott and Pat. Thanks for taking my call today.
Thanks.
Long-time listener. Appreciate the few minutes you guys are going to spend with me today.
Oh,
good.
thank you.
Appreciate that.
And we do as well.
So just cutting to the chase, I wanted to dive in a little bit to the CARES Act. And and the ability to withdraw funds from a 401k/403b. I'm reading information regarding the federal stance on it, but I'm having a hard time getting accurate or just plain details in writing from how the state of California handles it. Historically, the state of California penalizes you 2.5% for
That's right.
early withdrawals out of your retirement account. Do you guys know if they have since removed that penalty under the CARES Act to start with?
Yeah, for a couple questions before you answer that. How old are you?
I'm 40 years old.
And what do you want to do with the money when you withdraw it?
Well, so I'm pretty heavily involved. I've been to multiple workshops from you guys. And so my thinking of wanting to do this is either A, take money out of the tax deferred and roll it into a Roth, because I'm a huge fan of the Roth because of the future tax implications that I think are coming down the road.
Okay.
Or B, possibly seeing what options I have as far as taking that money out and paying off my existing home. So I'm just trying to see options at the moment and talk to different individuals.
Got it. How much you? So let's address those. So the Roth, this doesn't work on the Roth situation that you described. So A doesn't work because this would be a withdrawal, and you're asking about a taxation on a withdrawal, and taking money in out of this would not be a rollover to withdraw. So that A doesn't work. B is your home. So what do you owe on your home?
Well, could we talk about A really quick before we move on?
Sure.
So A, the way I would handle A would be I would withdraw the $100,000, and then my current employer allows me to fund up to, I believe it's $50,000 into a DCP with my paychecks, and then roll it over to a Roth. So I would just basically fund all my whole paycheck into a DCP and then roll it over to a Roth. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do a direct rollover, but that's how I would handle that withdrawal.
And then live on that, where you would be funneling these dollars out of your paycheck into the DCP, which you would actually convert then to a Roth.
Exactly. So it would end up making its way in there.
What are you doing that today? Are you not making the contributions to the 401k and funding the DCP? So what you just said told me that we should only fund the 401k to the match level that the company matches on, and rest of the deferred income should go to a DCP so you could roll it into a Roth. Are you doing that today?
Well, I work for a state organization, so we don't have a 401k and we don't have any match. So it's a 403b. And so since they don't match anything in my 403b, I throw everything into a DCP. So roughly I'm contributing $3,300 a month into the DCP after tax, and then monthly calling Fidelity and rolling it over into a Roth.
Okay,
account.
so you're doing that already. So for so you've got a defined contribution plan that you're actually funding out of payroll and then rolling it into the Roth. How much money do you have in your 457 plan? Or your 403b, I'm sorry.
453. Yeah, so the 403b has about, let me see, I wrote these down before I called you guys. So my 403b has $328,000 in the 403b, and then the rollover that I have tied to that has $100,000. I've been strategically really trying to fund that Roth because I feel taxes are going to go up in the future. So I'm almost done pre-tax funding, and I'm just trying to focus all my attention on Roth funding from this point forward.
And how much do you have in the Roth now?
So I have multiple Roth accounts, right? So I have the rollover Roth account that has 100, and then I have my other traditional Roth IRA that has another 100.
I've been doing research on the whether the California has conformed to the CARES Act. On some aspects they have, some they have not. They have when it comes to waiving the 2.5% penalty. So
but it would still be a taxable event.
Yes, it's still a taxable event.
Sure.
But there's not the 2.5% penalty.
But the DCP would make up for that. I kind of like your thinking. I kind of like where you're going with this. So let's answer this. So let's go to A. By the way, you are a student of financial planning, obviously.
You also need to be affected by the COVID-19. You can't just be.
Are you affected by it? Everyone's affected by it.
Which we are because of child care, right? Because there's that step 3 that really allows that window to be open, right? So
Yeah. So Tell us about the home mortgage. So let's go to B, which is the home mortgage. What do you owe on the home?
So $200,000 I owe, and the house is currently worth $600,000.
And what's the interest rate?
My interest rate is 4.5, and I'm 10 years into a 30-year loan.
And why
Fixed
haven't
rate.
you refinanced?
Because when I call them, they tell me that the expense of refinancing wouldn't basically make it worth it per se.
You've got to
a
call
heavy
someone
fee
else.
involved.
You've got to call someone else.
Yeah.
Okay, I just talked to the person that I have my loan
No,
with currently, and they're telling me that the fee.
Call someone else. Call someone else. And what you could
Was
do?
it a loan broker you talked to? Or is it the company that services your mortgage?
It's the company that holds my loan.
That's
of
what.
course they
So
don't want it.
they don't want
They
you.
have no.
They're
disincentivized to have you refinance.
The economics to them are actually negative if you refinance.
Yeah, not to you. It's good to you. Negative for them. They were confused.
So
it does have negative financial implications, but not to you. To them.
So you, I like the thinking of doing the defined contribution plan, taking the money out, paying taxes on it, pushing it all into the Roth. So what you're trying to do is get some parity between taxable accounts at retirement and non-taxable accounts at retirement, which is what it sounds like. And at the same time, simultaneously, I would look to refinance this mortgage into a 15 or 20-year fixed product. And it would bring your payments down. My guess is that you could increase your payments by a couple $100 a month and move into a 15-year fixed rate mortgage and have this thing retired in your mid-50s. And I would call a broker to do that. In fact, I'd call 2 brokers and I'd get quotes on what the going rate was. And I would start that process immediately. I wouldn't wait.
Okay.
I wouldn't wait a day. So we answered both A and B favorably. But I like your thinking. I would go with that. Normally, the environment wouldn't present itself to do this in a normal environment, but the way your company plans are structured and how they fit here, it works brilliantly.
Okay.
All righty.
Sounds good. Thanks for taking my taking
Appreciate
time
the
today,
call.
guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, there's lots of different situations, right?
Isn't it?
I know.
This is because if he understood his plans well enough.
And he understood the plan. And look, it's interesting to call like that. So he was, 41? 40?
Yeah, he's going to be fine, by the way. We're not worried about him.
No, but someone who really pays attention to their finances, he said he's gone to a couple of our educational workshops. He's probably attended others.
My
He
guess.
listens to this program. And, it's interesting. Sometimes people say, I need a financial advisor or not? Like, if you choose to do things on your own, which is fine, make sure you're like Nathan.
Yeah, you understand it.
He's 41 and going to different retirement workshops, understanding all the implications, and can do that sort of analysis. Because if not, the challenge is oftentimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yes. And
So
he's
you know what you know, and then you can go to certain websites and stuff and follow the news and try to put together a plan. But
he's using the CARES Act in this window of time to reset his finances, which is interesting. And the act they're working on right now is the HEROES Act. And the act after that will be the Superheroes Act. We have acts that have nothing
is that what
but
they're calling it, the HEROES Act?
the HEROES Act. That's
Who's
the
the
one.
hero?
It's some acronym for something. Herculean effort. Every act sounds good. Patriot Act, CARES Act, Secure Act. Every act.
You got to laugh at some of the stuff, otherwise you're going to go crazy.
Yeah, they never come out with a CRAP Act, right?
It's like somebody. There was a lot of those little memes going around early on, but there's like less and less. You know what I mean?
Yes, the things on the internet.
Yeah, this one it's the it's the Patriots, the founding fathers, holding up the Declaration of Independence. Right? Give me liberty or give me death. Unless there's a virus with a 99% recovery rate, in which case, strip me of my freedoms, my job, my constitutional rights, and put me under house arrest.
Okay, that's just brutal.
But, you get it from all kinds of sides.
Oh, you
right now.
see it everywhere. You see it everywhere. Anyway, so if you've been a longtime listener of this show, thank you. It is our 25th anniversary show. And
it's a weird thing.
And 1 million downloads. I remember the first show we did, I was so nervous. I was shaking.
As was I.
I was
and we had one of the more interesting calls. and I say that because I remember one of the callers. First of all, we staged a couple. I had my friend Dan Dice call. He was one of the callers.
Because we were afraid someone. He had a real question.
Yeah.
You just asked him to call.
Yes, of course.
So this is when we would actually.
It was 25 years ago. We just started, first show. And then there was another caller. I think we had 3 or 4 callers.
Where is Dan Dice now?
He lives.
I'm joking. Keep going.
He's retired. He headed up one of the earthquake things in California.
Oh.
Earthquake. Anyway, fortunately, there's no big earthquake under his watch. You kind of got lucky. It's a good job when there's not, right? Anyway, this caller gets on the phone and says, "I'm really nervous. I've never been on the radio before." I don't remember. I'm thinking, buddy, you think you're nervous? You can just hang up the phone. I got to somehow keep an audience for the next 25 minutes.
We were nervous. And we had a board operator, producer of the show, Lou Gasecki, who helped us out over the years.
Every week we would do a little post-meeting. So anyway, we're taking a quick break. This is Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hanson, Pat McClain will be right back.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. Scott Hanson.
Pat McClain, 25 years on the air. And,
we started, here's how we started this program. I'm sure you remember the story, Pat. So we were relatively young in our, we had Hanson McClain was the name of our company at the time that we started in 1993. And we did a lot of work with retirees from Pacific Bell, one of the spinoffs of AT&T.
Back then, now it's all back together.
And it's interesting how things change because back in the early 90s, most company pension plans, a lot of them had too much money. They were overfunded in their pension plans. And a company couldn't just say, I'm going to take some of the money and use it for my payroll this month. They weren't allowed to do that. So it was locked up in these retirement plans. So you had that along with technology was changing the employment requirements for the telephone companies.
Yes, significantly.
So they started using their pension plans to offer these buyouts, these enhanced retirement offers for their employees. And I remember the biggest case I saw was a 43-year-old who was able to retire with a full pension, lifetime pension, and lifetime medical at 43.
Crazy.
Because if you had 30 years of service, they guaranteed your pension, and added 4 years to your age and 4 years to your service. She was 17 when she was hired. And
all of a sudden, she when we say retire, she didn't retire. She just left that company as retiree. She probably went back and got another job.
She's still a client today. Now I think about it.
She probably went and got another job.
She did. She took a pension lump sum, rolled it over, and it's worth substantially. I mean, it was a great thing. Anyway, my point is, this is how we started early on, and then we wanted to grow our advisory business, our financial. We thought we had a better business model than most out there, and our education approach and our fiduciary mindset. And so we were looking at different ways to grow the organization. You remember this? So we went and visited a few different other financial advisors just to see how they ran their businesses and how they did some certain things. And there was one that we had talked to that had done a radio show, and he just said how good it was for him. Both, he said it kept him sharp because every week when he showed up, he had to make sure he was on top of everything, kept him really sharp. And it helped the community. And he said, as a byproduct, he says, you got to do it a long time, but as a byproduct, it's good for brand recognition and it's good for your business. And so I remember we visited this person, we came back, and I think, Pat, you just called up a program manager at Talk 650.
KSTE, small station.
It was a small station in Sacramento at the time.
Went and met with him, and he said, sure. And this was 25 years ago. There was not a lot of financial talk shows on the air. In fact, in Sacramento at the time, there was only one, Bob Brinker.
I don't know if he's still broadcasting or not.
And I don't know if he still broadcasts or not. Now, they're a dime a dozen.
There's a gazillion of them.
They're a dime a dozen. A lot of them there to show their annuities and life insurance products, which if you're a listener of this show, we're pretty negative on. But and we try never to promote products or our firm. Occasionally, we'll promote our firm on the air because we are in business and we do like business. But that's
and
not
then
the objective.
I think it was within a year we were brought over to the number one talk format in Sacramento region, KFBK, which we still broadcast on today.
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah,
incredibly.
Clear
and
channel.
Also, we were just hit a milestone of 1 million downloads of our podcast. which we think is pretty exciting as well.
If you're a podcast listener, if you enjoyed this show at all, please share it with a friend or even an acquaintance or someone that you meet for the first time. We don't care who you share it with as long as you share it.
25 years, and I know a lot of our listeners are nearing retirement or retirement. It's funny how life goes because in some ways it feels like a long time ago. In other ways, it just feels like...
Some days take forever, but the years fly by, right?
I guess that's kind of what it is, isn't it? I remember because when we started the program, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and
little Jessica,
not so little anymore. Matter of fact, and we'll go back to the college here in a moment. Like a lot of us, college kids back home. So she'd been back home for the last 2 months.
And you drove with her to Denver, did you not?
That's why I'm bringing up. I flew this week. That's why I'm bringing up.
So you drove there.
So she came home. She was in grad school in Denver. This thing came out. They kind of told everyone to get back home or whatever. So she came back. I mean, everyone left her apartment building. She's in an apartment building in downtown Denver. And so she came home, and all of her classmates all scattered everywhere. 2 of her classmates tested positive for the virus, by the way. And she had a nasty, one of the worst flus she'd had before.
Your daughter did?
Yes.
So she may have had it.
I don't know. I mean, 2 out of 20 some odd students.
Yeah.
10% of her class tested positive. Anyway, so she comes home for 2 months. Has been with us the last 2 months. And now she's still finishing school online. It's not quite the same. But some of her friends are coming back to Denver. And she's like, all right, I'm ready to get back on with my life. I'm going to be graduating here in a few more weeks. And she's actually starting a small business. I helped her get her LLC set up and stuff. And she drove out because she's got this big dog, which is always a great thing. And she got it in college without telling her parents. It's wonderful. So anyway, we drove back to Denver on Wednesday of this week. Left at 4 a.m. and drove all the way through to Denver.
Oh, you drove straight through.
And then
a 16-hour drive?
Yeah, it's a 16-hour drive. It's a long drive. A little more than 16 hours. And then got up early the next morning and went to the airport, which was strange. But a couple things strange. One, there was actually some traffic in Denver at 7:30 in the morning driving to the airport. You were kind of surprised.
Interesting.
It's like stop and go for a little bit. But the airport, I've flown in and out of Denver hundreds of times. I'm not excited. I mean, it's a big hub, so you go through there a lot.
Especially we're on the West Coast.
Yeah, you go through Denver a lot.
And
I've been checked in security at Denver 100 times probably over the years. I have an office there and stuff. It was the strangest feeling because in Denver you kind of look down because you take an escalator down to where there's the security is. There's 2 main security things, and normally there's 500 people, 1,000
huge lines,
people,
yes,
massive. There was maybe 25 people in total, and I'm TSA pre-check. I'm also got the clear where you can go through the clear.
Yeah.
There's nobody in the TSA line, nobody in the clear line. I go through the clear, and I had to move my face mask for just a moment, and then I go to put my bag through the thing. There was only one person.
It's like a different world. Were the concessions open?
So the concession, I'll get back to this calls here in a minute, but you found it, I think.
Yeah, I haven't been on a plane
so
in 10 weeks.
I went to my terminal, and the concession, I was wondering the same thing, but yeah, it was open. So I get this burrito, and all the tables are still there, but the chairs are all removed and they're all stacked to the sides. You can't sit at the tables. But yet, if I look right down by the gate, all the people are lined.
They're all the chairs there. They're all still there.
But you can't sit at the table and buy the concession. You got to go.
They're trying.
They don't know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, everyone's trying their best.
Yeah. So, and then getting on the plane.
How many people were on the plane?
Maybe 40 people as a Southwest flight,
which is probably a quarter full, 20% full.
And I sat in the emergency rows. If anyone flies Southwest much, it's where there's only 2 seats in front of you, so there's all that leg room. Because I'm 5'6", I need a lot of leg room.
Okay.
But and no one sat next to me in the entire row.
Oh. And you didn't get the early bird check-in on Southwest?
They didn't even offer it.
Oh, which is nice of them.
It was a really strange experience.
Scott and I are like world travelers for pleasure, but our business does require us to travel. So.
Up until this, I was traveling 3 weeks out of the month.
Yeah. I would prefer...
And I'm going to do much less now that I've gotten proficient with Zoom, as will a lot of people.
Changes the business. So
anyway, we've been talking a lot about ourselves, but here we go. Let's back the calls.
Let's talk about you for a while.
833-99-WORTH to join the number here. We are in Carmichael talking with Carl. Carl, you're with All Worth's Money Matters.
Good morning.
Hi, Carl.
Hi.
How can we help you?
I had a question. I've read a lot about the new legislation that was passed by Congress and signed into law about postponing this year's required minimum distribution from a retirement account. And one thing I've never got a clear answer on is whether if I postpone that RMD into next year, whether it will be taxed as income next year, which would mean that I would have a double distribution if it was taxed next year. So that was a concern of mine.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's not a deferral, it's a suspension. So they didn't defer it into next year. They just suspended it for this year.
So it's suspended completely. So it's not a taxable event then when I do receive it.
No. It's a taxable event. You just don't have to take it this year. So they didn't change it. They just said
And so next year you'll have to take a required minimum distribution based upon the account value of 12/31/2020, whatever that is,
and your life expectancy.
based upon your life expectancy. But you don't have to take two next year. It's not like you have to do double or next year or anything.
And you pay taxes on it as ordinary income next year. You just don't have to take one this year.
That's still not clear to me. If I defer my 2000,
You're not deferring. You're not. There is no required minimum distribution this year. It does not exist.
There's no requirement.
Pretend like you're 69 or the old age 71.
So when I take it next year, and then I still have to take one for 2021.
No, you don't.
No.
You don't have to take a 2020. It's like it doesn't exist. You're right, Carl. There's zero required minimum distribution requirements for you.
So just pretend this never happened. Next year, you do the calculation based on the 12/31 value of 2020 and your life expectancy.
That.
But this year, it doesn't exist. It's like you were 50 or 55 or 60. It doesn't. There's no required minimum distribution.
So I won't receive a 1099 for a retirement distribution.
That's
for 2000.
Unless you've taken something already.
Have you taken it?
No.
Okay, then no, you won't. Nope, you will not receive a 1099. They will not send you a notice saying, "Here's what you're supposed to be taking this year." It doesn't exist. You don't have to worry about it.
So that's a nice windfall for me.
Okay.
Yep. You might want to. You might want to. And it may or may not make sense, but you might want to look at doing a Roth conversion with some portion of that if you're not going to. And the reason we state that, typically those that are required minimum distributions, they've got more money in their retirement accounts than they need, which is why they're only taking what's required of them. So it could this provides a good window to look at taking some what would otherwise have to be distributed, to take some or all of that dollar amount and converting it to a Roth IRA, which does two things. One, it's going to lower the amount of money in your account that's stuck for required minimum distributions next year and going on. And two, it's going to be tax-free income that you can pass to your heirs. So that's something to consider.
And it depends on your marginal income, and you should be doing that calculation every year whether they've suspended the required minimum distribution or not.
Yeah, you can't convert the required minimum distribution, but you can convert dollars above and beyond that if you were so inclined. Or you could have a portion of that required minimum distribution to go directly to a charity, and then convert some dollars above and beyond the required minimum
both
distribution.
Great tax.
Yeah, so lots of things to look at. But if you're over age, it used to be 70 and a half, and they just
moved it
December 31st, they made it 72, and then in March of this year, they eliminated it for this year, which is a strange...
why this was included in the CARES Act.
I mean, it's like the last call. Oh, it's a windfall for me is what he said, right?
Yeah. Why this was included in the CARES Act.
And what this does for the taxpayer, the Treasury...
is negative. It's negative. And the people that take required minimum distributions, that have to take required minimum, typically don't need the money or don't need it that much. They use it as tax planning around their... Yeah. So anyway.
And I'm not begrudging those...
listen, I'm glad they did it. I just don't understand why they did it.
You're glad for our clients they did it.
Oh, correct. My job is to represent the clients, but I don't understand why in all this legislation and this things that they're cramming through Congress and having the president sign was just out of all the things in the...
Let's focus on those people that have more money in their retirement accounts than they need and tell them they don't actually have to pay taxes on it this year.
Yeah,
that's what they did.
Yeah, versus they really should have been thinking about is, does this $600 match unemployment actually make sense across the board, or should we match it on a pro rata basis as to what the state is paying out? And that's the conversation they should have had. My 19-year-old son was explaining to me how ludicrous this idea was that he should get $600 a week. He, plus his $100 a week in unemployment benefits, so he gets $700 a week, and that it takes away all motivation to go back to get a job.
He was telling you that.
Where's he going
to be making that kind of money part-time?
He's 19. He understood the economics. He said, look, I'm glad I got
so
it.
He's making $50,000 a year. How long will it pay? It'll only a couple months, right?
Until July, but they're talking about extending it to the end of the year.
I got to tell you, if Congress does not, I can forgive the first time.
So this is my 19-year-old son who recognizes the benefits to himself, but recognizes the disincentive it is to him and all his friends to enter the workforce, which they would normally do. Crazy.
I remember years ago I worked with a gentleman, and he had a plaque on his desk that said Tinstaffel. 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 And the first time I saw this, I said, what the heck is Tinstaffel? He says, there is no such thing as a free lunch.
That's actually pretty good, right? Just to remind him. There's
right.
a cost associated with
so
everything.
So your 19-year-old son kind of understands this.
Yeah.
Someone's going to have to pay back these dollars at some point in time.
Well, he said, what about the small businesses that actually need people like me to work there?
Look, it's a
disincentive. Look,
I
understand why they did it.
Yeah, and it was like a panic.
Look, it was a panic.
I can forgive all this early on.
I understand why they did it. Now, talking about extending it to the end of the year when you had time to step back and actually look at this, I have friends that own restaurants. They're telling me, look, some of them which have started under law being able to open, that some of their employees are not coming back because they make more money.
That's right. A friend of mine is in the general contracting business, doing work on apartment complexes in the Bay Area. And someone in the Bay Area said, it's not essential unless it's low-income housing. So if it's not low-income housing, you must cease your construction. So he had to lay off a bunch of employees. He got the PPP money, tried hiring back. He's got 10 employees who wouldn't come back because of the unemployment benefits. Okay. So he can't.
Yeah. Unintended.
He can't fully get back to work because he can't.
All right. Well, it's our 25th anniversary, Scott. Not you and I, but of the radio show. Let's kind of get it.
I know, but Pat, we've been working together almost 30 years.
I know that, and it's been a pleasure for you the whole time.
26 of those years. That's not a bad percentage.
It's been a great partnership. 26 out of 30 years.
75% of the time.
It's the same grade I graduated from.
Any sort of relationship, is it not?
There we go.
All right. If you want to be part of the program, this is Allworth's Money Matters. Allworth Financial Money Matters with Scott Hanson and Pat McClain. We're in Colorado talking with Margaret. Margaret, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Good morning, Scott and Pat.
Good morning, Margaret.
Margaret.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call. Here is my question. I have bank CD both in traditional IRA and Roth IRA account mature this week.
Oh, bad timing.
And I do not know where to put the money. The bank is only paying 1.5% interest for 5 years. And
you have it at
5-year-old. Go ahead.
Margaret, how old are you?
65.
And do you own anything else other than bank CDs?
I own the property.
Okay, but you don't have any money in stocks or bonds?
Well, I had it. I sold it, a couple of months ago when this pandemic happened. So it was spooky.
Okay.
So I sold them all.
Okay.
Here's the challenge, right? So every time we hear about the Feds lowering interest rates to spur economic growth, what they're doing is two things. One is they're making the cost of capital, the cost of money for companies, cheaper, right? So if you're producing widgets and you want to produce more widgets, heck, money's super cheap. I'll borrow some more money. I can hire some more employees. I can build a bigger factory. We can produce more widgets. So that's one consequence. So that's to get the economy going. But the other thing that happens with lower interest rates, it spurs investors to look beyond traditional savings accounts. So it looks to someone like Margaret, who you've got these CDs that are coming due, and you're thinking, what the heck? They're going to offer me 1.5% if I lock my money up for 5 years? Surely there's got to be something better than that. So what it encourages, or what it attempts to encourage, is for someone like Margaret to say, you know what, I'm not going to really, I'm going to go invest in something different. I'm going to go buy some stocks in the company. I'm going to go loan some money to companies. I'm going to go buy some real estate. I'm going to go invest somewhere else that's going to help with economic growth. The challenge with that is you're 65 years old. You've realized your own risk tolerance several weeks ago when you sold stocks when they were at their lows. So you don't really have a lot of options other than to grin and bear it.
So one of the things is you look at it, and Scott is 100% right, which is if you're going to get a higher rate of return over that of U.S. Treasuries or bank CDs, which are backed by the U.S. government, anything above and beyond that is going to require some risk. So you want a higher rate of return, but you want the same risk, and it doesn't live. In fact, I heard a commercial the other day where they said targeted 18 to 20% returns in. They couched it as some sort of risk-free real estate investment.
Do you still run that ad?
Yes, and I thought to myself, how disingenuous can you be to imply that there's no risk, and at the same time you can get a targeted. They didn't say target. I could say targeted.
They're running this ad still in the midst of this environment? I remember they were before.
They're tone deaf. Yes, I heard one the other day.
They're not even getting that kind of rent. We all know.
So, Margaret, here is what you have a choice. You could buy U.S. Treasuries, which you're going to pay
even less.
You buy bank CDs, or you could go, which would my recommendation is go to an online bank, and you're going to get a little bit higher yield than what you're going to receive at a local bank.
I did. I went to the online Google. The 5-year rate is 1.5%.
Oh, and what bank was it with? Did you look at Synchrony Bank or?
I did. I do have a Synchrony Bank. That's the one.
I mean, that's the when we have the 10-year Treasury right now is yielding 0.6%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
So you're not gonna you're gonna get the highest rates from those online banks. And if that's what they are, that's what they are.
So, Synchrony Bank is any bank you recommend?
I would go to bankrate.com. It's a bankrate.com.
Yeah, and look for the highest yield.
Day.
Yep, and that's what.
So
what
what were you hoping that we were going to provide on this call? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I know you guys are experts, so we're just wondering maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, there's not.
I mean, it's frustrating. I feel for you. There's no man. I mean, I just said on the last call, it tends to fall. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? So,
in my own portfolio, I had some bonds come due on Wednesday. In my own personal portfolio, I had a little bit of bonds come due on Wednesday, and I actually don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. But there's not a lot of great alternatives in risk-free investments. So I would recommend. I wouldn't buy 5 years. I'd buy 12 months or less. I wouldn't go out 5 years.
It's just not worth it.
It's not the difference in the yields is so minimal to lock your money up for 5 years. It's not worth it. So I'd go out and buy 12 months or less.
Yeah. Or just 12 months, like 12 month CD. But I read some article talk about because the pandemic, the virus thing, will last for a while, maybe 3-5 years. The market probably, anyway.
Well, I'm not that smart.
But nobody knows. And one of the challenges, if you lock into a 5-year and we have a time of high inflation and you're stuck with a CD that's paying 1.5% and inflation's running 4 or 6 or 10%, I don't know what inflation's going to do. Nobody knows. What we know is that things are priced now based upon what our collective belief of the future is going to be. So when there's new information, things could change. But
in my mind, the difference between what you're receiving on a 1 year versus locking it up for 5 years is not worth that risk.
I see.
You can always roll it over in 12 months. If the interest rate's going to be the same, I have no idea.
1.5 is not, if it was a number that was actually giving you some financial, it's just not enough money.
There's not enough difference in what they call the spread, the yield, in order to actually buy on a longer term bond CD for 5 years. I would buy, personally, you called and asked the question, I would accept a lower yield and buy a 12-month. And in your particular situation, you should stay away from equities.
100%. And, you know, we don't know your entire situation, don't really have time on this program. Every once in a while, I see a situation where an immediate annuity makes sense for somebody. That's where somebody gives up a chunk of cash in exchange for kind of like a lifetime pension. The challenge with that, again, rates are so low, the payouts are going to be so low. But for people that have zero risk tolerance,
it can make sense, assuming that you are purchasing the annuity from a reputable firm.
But it's just like CDs.
There's so much garbage out there.
And it's just like looking at CDs. There's different rates out there and different kind of payouts and that sort of. It's something to possibly look at, but Anyway, we are about out of time, unfortunately, because it's been our 25th year, 1 millionth podcast downloads. At least
and we do appreciate you listening. We do appreciate the
very
emails
much.
and comments.
We would not have this show if it wasn't for you, and we're grateful for that. And we sometimes get off topic and banter a little back and forth. Every once in a while, someone tells us get back to the subject matter.
Yeah, we get those emails. And then just as many times as we get emails that say, don't talk so much about the subject matter, talk about other stuff.
We like the other stuff more than the subject matter. But
it's our radio show, so we appreciate the comments.
Yeah, and if you think it's good, particularly with podcasts, more and more people are listening via podcasts. And forward this. If you find a show that you've got something particularly interesting and someone in your life who would think could benefit from that advice, just forward on that podcast to them. We'd appreciate that. And as always, we do appreciate when you take the time to go and give us a review at wherever you're listening. Either I was with my daughter and she listens to all our podcasts on Spotify, which I'm a Spotify subscriber as well. But anyway, but wherever you get your podcasts is.
And we've been doing this through 4 major economic downturns. I assure you that this too shall pass. So all the things that are happening in your life that seem chaotic, they will get better.
We just don't know when.
And
18 months from now. No, who knows when, right? It's been frustrating. Anyway, appreciate the chance to be with you this weekend as always. And we hope you have a fantastic rest of the weekend. This has been Scott Hanson and Pat McLean of Allworth Financial's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.